house. It was built in honor of that location. But you can definitely feel the presence of the Virgin Mary here. And yeah, so the reason why I'm here in Ephesus, this is the second time that I've been here this year. The first time I was here in March with a group of pilgrims from Germany and Austria, and we spent a week going around Ephesus and here and some other temples like the Apollo Temple, and we also visit the Artemis Temple. Artemis is a Greek goddess who was actually born here nearby, along with her twin brother Apollo. They were the daughter of Leto and god Zeus. And this area here has a long tradition venerating the Holy Feminine, the Divine Feminine, going back way, way back. And what I'm going to be doing in the springtime is I'm going to be leading a big trip here, a 2-week trip that starts actually, we fly from Germany, either from Munich or Frankfurt or from Austria or from Switzerland, and we land in time in Istanbul that we can catch a flight then to Ufra. Why Ufra? Ufra is in the far east of Turkey, and there about, I think, 20-25 years ago, they discovered a temple. The temple is called Göbekli Tepe. That means it's called the Potbelly Hill. And they started to, a German guy started to dig it out and discovered a temple which is dated 12,800 years ago. This is 12,800 years ago. Most archaeologists believe we were hunters and gatherers. But this temple is extraordinary. If you have a chance, just Google Göbekli Tepe. It's an immaculate shape, partly because the people who built it actually, they covered it up shortly before a meteor hit North America and sent this world into an ice age for 1,300 years, where it was very dark and very cold and very wet. And we don't know who built it and what it means. So we're going to go there to not only see that, but also to experience that. And then we're going to take a big trip in a bus over a week that leads us to places like Mount Nemrut. And we're going to go to Cappadocia and Capadocia and Konya, where Rumi, the great Sufi mystic, was at home. We're going to visit many, many sacred sites, many of them which have a deep connection with the original female energy, what they call in German the Urmutterliche Energie. And then we're going to come here. And the first part of the trip is a week through the Anatolia landscape, bringing us here a week later. And then we're going to bring a week here in Ephesus. Why? Well, because of Artemis, partly, and also because of the Virgin Mary. And it is also believed, and this is somewhat controversial, everybody has to come to terms with this, it is also believed that John came here with the Virgin Mary and maybe also Maria Magdalena. Why do I say that? Because not far from here is a grave where the 7 sleepers are. And that grave has been visited for over 1,700 years. And they visit it because they believe that Maria Magdalena was buried there. So what we have here is we have the grave somewhere here, they don't know where, of the Virgin Mary. There we have the grave of Maria Magdalena. You go another 5 kilometers and then you come to Selçuk, and there you visit the Basilica of St. John, built in the year 400 by the same architect who built the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, in Constantinople. And there's a grave for John. In the entrance to Ephesus, the upper entrance to Ephesus, there's also a grave for Saint Luke, the first icon painter. So what we're going to see is, I call this the marriage of the East and West, this trip. Why? Because when we come from the East, we come from basically a consciousness which is rooted in the feminine, which has to do with a horizontal consciousness that has to do with a universal consciousness. And then as we come here, we come into the Greek thought and the Greek mythology, paganism. and the Roman, and then we start to experience places like Malay, where there were 4 famous philosophers there, and also we know in Kos and Samos there were philosophers and thinkers and people who were great rhetorical speakers. I don't forget what. And that means we start coming into the mind. We start coming into thinking and philosophizing. And that is more Western in a way. That's a Western thing. It has more to do with the individual. So we go away from the universal consciousness. We come into the individual consciousness. Nothing wrong with that. But we have that in us. We have that, for example, in the left and the right hemisphere of the brains. We know that the left hemisphere of the brain is very individualized, and we know that the right hemisphere of the brain is very universal. And personally, I just want to end this short video by saying many people believe that the Virgin Mary, John, and Maria Magdalena came here to bring Christianity to the people here. And personally, I cannot see that. And the reason why I cannot see that is because I believe that they were seeking safety, of course, but also I believe that they felt very much at home here. I can imagine that the Virgin Mary had a beautiful garden here. There's a spring nearby, and maybe once in a while she walked into Ephesus and went to the Temple of Artemis. I don't think she would have any problem with that, because she's from the same source, right? She's from the source of the Universal Mother. Gaia is what we call it for the earth. And I think she and Maria Magdalena and also St. John felt very much at home here in a town which was venerating the Divine Feminine. That's my belief, and that's how I experience Ephesus. One last note, it is believed by many people that St. John actually wrote his gospel here, the Gospel of John here in Ephesus, because after all, he was a young man when he came here, maybe no older than 20, and a couple of people believe that Maria Magdalena helped him author it, because she was also young, and she experienced Jesus, as we know, very intimately. And if you know the Gospel of John, you can feel that there's a strong female presence in it. For example, Maria Magdalena plays a big role in the Gospel of John. And it wouldn't surprise me that 2 of them sat down and actually wrote the Gospel out of the memories that they had just a decade before. Or this is hard to date the Gospel of John. First of all, we don't know if it was written in Aramaic or in Greek, and it doesn't matter. I can imagine that the 2 of them, as brothers and sisters, actually wrote that down. Okay, in any case, I greet you all from the Virgin Mary's house and from Ephesus, and the tour that I'm leading next year is going to be in German, because those are my students, and if there's enough interest, I can definitely offer this, and would love to offer this trip in English. If there's enough people interested, I would be glad to offer it in English. Many people in the last decade are afraid to go to Göbekli Tepe because it's not far from Syria. It's not dangerous at all. It's not. The economy here, especially the tourist economy, even here in Ephesus, has suffered because people are afraid to come here because they believed it was unstable here, or because of the refugee. It's here. The Turkish people are wonderful. They're soft. They're full of life. They're full of joy. Not all of them, of course, but they're. I think that deep in the earth here is still this beautiful balance in the Greek belief system and the Roman belief system, that the heavens are made up of the Divine Feminine and the Divine Masculine. And you feel that here. Okay, that's enough now, and then I'll probably post this on YouTube, and then thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and all the best. Bye-bye.